first of all, the quote I have up right now, I think, so resonates with what you just said. Being someone who's been, I mean, I've been in the mortgage business my entire adult life, 25 plus years, and most of my good friends are some of the most successful mortgage people in the industry. Many of them are just, they're the best. They have the right values. They execute well around those values. Every family gets their best experience, regardless of whether the family, requires it. One thing that's always challenged me in this business is there are people that they have good values, they have a why. For the most part, they do a great job. But like I had a loan officer the other day where, he knows, you call it the mortgage coach experience, where he gives a family comparisons. He spends an extra 5 minutes really educating the family. But he says, a lot of people, they don't ask for it, they don't demand it. Why should I do it? And the typical answer by coaches in the industry are, because you're going to get the best conversion rate, you're going to get the most referrals, all this, more money, more money, more money. What do you say to mortgage professionals, like people that they have a pretty good why, but they're just, how do we get them to see that, you're not executing on it? Any advice or guidance you have to a professional to say, you may think you have the right why, you may be pretty successful in making money, but what can we tell them to do to really audit? Are you really executing on your why, and is your why really what it should be?
Well, it requires discipline and it requires work. Leadership and living by one's why is a daily practice, and it's the practice of putting someone else's life sometimes ahead of your interests, right? So if someone, even though you may get the deal, that it's actually not in their interest, are you willing to say, listen, I got some advice for you. It's the right thing to do, And that is not something you can do tomorrow. I would never say to anybody on a call like this, do this tomorrow. It takes practice. So let me give you some examples of how to practice this, right? You're driving to work, and the guy, somebody wants to cut into the lane in front of you. Do you pull your car up or do you pull your car back? That's called leadership. That's putting somebody else, giving them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they've got a big interview. Maybe they're running late. Maybe they're a tourist. Maybe they're in the wrong lane. Maybe they're just an ass. Who knows? And the willingness to pull our car back and arrive to work one car length late, that's leadership. As a friend of mine says, when you ask somebody, how are you, you actually care about the answer. That's living your why. That's leadership. You pour yourself the last cup of coffee in the office and you put the empty pot back. No big deal. The next person who wants a cup of coffee will make the next pot. Or you can spend 5 minutes and make that extra pot even though no one will be there to see you do it. And if you practice these little things, and they're tiny little things. You're standing in an elevator. You're late for a meeting. The elevator's closing. Someone's running towards the elevator. Do you pretend you can't reach the button, or do you hold the door for them? These are tiny little things that if we practice on a daily basis, we build the muscle. It's like exercise. You go to the gym, you come home, you look in the mirror, you see nothing. You go to the gym, you come home, you look in the mirror, you see nothing. And so you're like, why am I bothering with this? This stuff doesn't work. Plus you're in pain. There's an element of faith involved, that you stick with it because it's the right thing to do, kind of like parenting. You can't judge if you're a good parent on a daily basis. But if you stick with it, the pain goes away, the weight gets lighter, you start feeling better, you start looking healthier, and people say to you, you look great. The same thing is here. You just practice these little things, even though each one of them does nothing. But in combination, they start to paint a picture of the kind of person you are. What's more, the short-term pain that you had goes away, and the stuff gets easier. And you find yourself actually really good at taking care of your clients, taking care of your customers, taking care of your employees, taking care of people, because you've been practicing, like exercise. That's all it is. It's a practice. It's a daily practice. There's a Zen saying that I love, which is how you do anything is how you do everything. When I do business with somebody and we're negotiating a contract and they're squeezing me and squeezing me and squeezing me at the beginning, pointlessly, for no reason, I usually walk away from the deal because this is what it's going to be like to work with them later on. I can tell you in the mortgage, my experience with my mortgage broker, he couldn't resist telling me how great he was all the time. Even the last day I had to talk to him, when he called me to congratulate me, He couldn't just make it about me. He couldn't just say, congratulations, Simon, you finally bought a home. It's really great. Welcome to home ownership in America. Like, that's what he could have said. But he had to say, you know, I got you a great rate, and I took a hit on my commission to get you that rate. He had to say that. And it destroyed all the goodwill. It literally ruined it. It literally ruined it. Like, God forbid he should think about the customer for 1 second and not put himself at the center of every conversation. And that's the point. That's what sacrifice means. It doesn't mean you have to take a hit on the price. It doesn't mean that you have to walk away from the deal. But maybe you don't have to be the center of attention in every single conversation. Maybe you can trust that the person on the other end of the transaction has a brain, has an instinct, has a gut, and they themselves like to do business with people who they like. There are going to be two kinds of customers, always. The ones who will do business with you for you, and the ones who will do business with you just because you got them the cheapest deal and it's just a transaction. You are going to get those transactional deals no matter what. But they're not the ones that build a business. The ones that build the business are the ones that come back and buy from you again. The ones that build a business are the ones that when somebody asks about you, they say you have to go with them no matter what, even if they don't get you the best rate. The ones that build your business are the ones that tell other people to work with you even when they're not asked. Those are the ones who build a stable business. The transactional ones, you get them sometimes, you don't get them sometimes. And sometimes people even apologize to you. I'm really sorry. I really love you. You're really spectacular. I just cannot turn down this rate from somebody else. I hope you don't take it personally. And you go, no, don't worry about it. If you got a better rate, you should totally take it. And they'll still recommend you. That's the joke. That's the joke. And so we have to be cognizant of the fact that every single decision we make, everything we say is a piece of communication. And everything we say and everything we do, people are forming opinions about us that will impact and affect the way they interact with us and the way they recommend us to other people forever.
There was much wisdom in those words. For everybody on this call, I mean, I've been getting texts, I've been getting comments. I mean, you've already knocked it out of the park. You know, let's get a little tactical on the mortgage experience, because while we have our why, you know, there's a how. And there is something that separates what I call average loan officers, kind of the application takers. And it sounds as though you may have worked with one of those. You know, I mean, at Mortgage Coach, you know, we've kind of built this foundation on the concept that families don't just want price. You know, here's your rates, here's your fees. You know, our values are all around, they should always get a comparison. And by the way, Simon, there's lots of loan officers that they either don't use Mortgage Coach because, well, they're like, well, I quoted them this rate, they're doing business with me, I didn't need to give them the comparison. And then, you know, another one of our values is we've always believed that every time you get into debt, you should look at what's the cost that you're likely to have that debt. Yeah. Now, by the way, most families don't know that. I mean, in financial planning worlds, that's common sense that, hey, you know, it's not what your monthly payment is, it's not what it costs you to get the loan, it's what does it cost you over the 3 to 5 years that you're going to have the home? Yeah. And so we've always been, you know, kind of our tenets of success are always give families comparisons, always show them the cost over time, and then always make sure they know how to get out of debt faster. Because, and I don't know if your loan officer told you this, but if you just made a couple $100 extra in prepaying your mortgage every month, you know, it could be the difference between having a loan for 30 years and having a loan for 20 years.
Yeah, he did not tell me that, but I figured it out myself, thank goodness. But he did not tell me that. And that's because, as you said itself, what you're recommending to your advice is to treat people like people, not to treat people like a target or a number. And when we think about them as human beings, we want them to know what they're doing because it's going to affect their life. And long after this transaction is complete and you're out of their lives, they will still have to deal with whatever this is. And you're setting them up to understand what they're starting. Whereas somebody else wants to just make the deal and leave. And anybody who says, I don't need you, you know, I wish I knew about you before, because I would have asked this guy, have you worked with a Mortgage Coach? And if he said no, that may have been a deal breaker even before we got to the rates, because it's an indication. It's an indication that you are thinking beyond yourself and you are thinking about the person and the things that they are going to take on in their life long after you're gone. 3, 4, 5, 6 years later, you will forget their name, they will forget your name, and yet they're still saddled with this product that you helped them buy.
Right. Exactly. And again, again, our mission has always been, how can we go and create social change around how people get in debt? Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, buying monthly payments and rates it's a broken system. But looking at the cost over time, being intentional about paying it off faster,
Yeah.
that is how families should get into debt.